Hi guys and welcome to today's tutorial. In today's tutorial we're going to look at Unit 1 and we're going to look at stakeholders and relationships. And we're going to do a quick summary on this part of the course. So the first thing you need to know is stakeholders in business. What is a stakeholder? Well, a stakeholder is a person that has an interest in a business, and stakeholders can be consumers, can be producers, investors, it can be entrepreneurs, employees, employers, suppliers, and trade unions, etc. So anybody that has an interest in the business. Okay, so I've wrote up there that there's stakeholders, anybody that has an interest in a particular business. Okay, the next thing we're going to look at is relationships. So relationships in business. Okay, so you can have different types of relationships with people in business, and the first one that you need to know is a cooperative relationship. So cooperative relationship. Okay, and a cooperative relationship is when all the businesses work together with all the stakeholders in order to try achieve a common goal, so that it's a win-win situation for both the business and the stakeholders. The next type of relationship that exists between people and business is a competitive relationship. So competitive relationship. And this is because stakeholders and businesses sometimes want completely different things. So they can be in constant competition with each other. An example of this might be businesses want to have the highest price possible, where the consumers want to have the lowest price possible. So they're going to be competing and they're going to be in competition against each other. So that is kind of like a win-lose situation. Someone's going to win and someone's going to lose. And the third factor in relationships is constant change. So because the world is constantly changing, this makes it more difficult for businesses, because the fact that businesses is constantly changing, they have to constantly change themselves in order to be able to survive as a business. One thing to note is that usually in business, businesses usually compete against each other. That's normally what happens. So if there's two businesses in the same kind of industry, in the same sector, they'll usually compete against each other. But sometimes businesses will cooperate with each other, okay? And that might be the best situation for the two businesses. So in that situation, they might cooperate with each other. The next thing we're going to look at is a conflict. So we're going to look at the conflict between the stakeholders and the business, okay? And sometimes that it's a normal thing to happen, that there will be conflict between the stakeholders. And I'm going to give you 3 reasons for this. The first one is because of different objectives. So different objectives. So this is where there's differences of objectives by different stakeholders, and conflict might arise. So I gave an example before that maybe one business that the employees will want higher wages, and the business will want to give the employees the lowest wages possible, obviously to make more money, to make more profit. So that would be a situation where you might have different objectives, which will lead to conflict between the two or more stakeholders. Another reason why conflict may arise is because of trust, or a lack of trust. So if there's a lack of trust in the business between different stakeholders, this is going to lead to conflict. A third reason why conflict arises is because of maybe the style of negotiation. So style of negotiation. So there's different ways to negotiate within a business, and sometimes if it's a very aggressive style, it can come across maybe rude, and that can maybe lead to different stakeholders coming into conflict. If it's a very assertive style, without intimidating somebody, this might be a much better way to go about it, and may lead to fewer conflicts between different stakeholders. So this is going to bring us on to resolving conflict. So resolving conflict, how can you do this? Well, there's two ways you can resolve conflict. One is a legislative method. So legislative method, and this is when you use the law, or like an institution to go and to resolve the conflict. And the second way you can resolve conflict is a non-legislative method. So non-legislative method. And this is maybe by using like something that's not to do with the law. Okay, so maybe it's negotiation, maybe it's like a compromise. There's different ways to resolve without using like the law or using like legal force. The next thing we're going to look at is a legal contract, and this is something that comes up quite frequently in the Leaving Cert exam. So a legal contract. What is a legal contract? So first of all, I need to know what a contract is, and a contract is a relationship that exists between two or more stakeholders. So what makes a contract legal? Okay, so the first thing is there has to be like an offer and an acceptance. Offer and acceptance. So there has to be an offer and acceptance. The second thing, there has to be consideration. So consideration. The third factor is intention to contract. So intention basically means that like both parties need to understand that it's legally binding, and if they break it, that they may end up in court over this. Consideration, I don't think actually I forgot to explain what that one was. That just means that like this is the payment that one person gives to another, and it must be like in real and invaluable like terms. So consideration, in examples, could be like money or like goods or something like that. The fourth one is capacity to contract. So capacity to contract. And this basically means that they must have the legal power and ability to make the contract. They must be over 18. They must not be drunk or on drugs or insane, or like be mentally like not able to make that decision. Okay, the next one, the fifth one, is consent to contract. So consent to contract. This basically means that both parties must give their real and voluntary and genuine permission to enter into the contract, and they both must know what they're getting into, and neither party can be forced into doing it. The sixth one is legality of form. And this means that like certain contracts to be legal must be drawn up in a particular way. So for example, a hire purchase contract must be written out. And the last one, the seventh one, is legality of purpose. And this means that basically the contract must not be illegal, and agreements to commit a crime will not be held up in court. So if it's illegal, like it can't be made. It won't hold up in court, even if one of the party breaks it. The next thing you need to know is the termination of a contract. So termination of a contract. So how do you terminate a contract? Because contracts, even though they're legally binding, they can be terminated if there's a few things. Okay, so there's a few ways that contracts may be ended. The first way a contract may be ended is because of performance. So each party does what they're contracted to do. Therefore, this might mean that they have contractually, like they fulfill their obligations and as agreed in the contract, so they're actually able to terminate early because they've reached the level of performance that they agreed to reach. The second way is because of frustration. And frustration is when like an unseen event may happen that prevents the contract from being completed. So an example of this would be like debt. The third way that a contract may be ended early is agreement. And this is when both sides agree to terminate even though the contract is incomplete. And the fourth way is because of breach. And this is when one party breaks a condition, so an important part of the contract, and therefore it can be terminated early. One other thing to also note is sometimes in a contract you might put in like a condition, and a condition is a clause, and it is very important that if you break like the clause, it's the same as breaking the contract. And another thing that you can also have is a warranty. Now, a warranty is less important than a condition, and if you break a warranty, it's not actually breaking the contract itself. So a condition is like a clause in it. If you break that, that's actually breaking the contract, and a warranty is like a lesser important clause. And if you break the warranty, it's okay. It's because it's not the contract itself. You're not breaking the contract itself. So you're not breaking any rules or any laws. And the very last thing we're going to look at is remedies for breaching. So for a breach of a contract. Breach of contract. So if you break a contract, what are the remedies? What can you do? The first one is that you can sue for damages. So you can sue the person who's broken it, or the party that's broken it, for damages. The second thing you can do is you can rescind the contract. Rescind the contract. And basically the word rescind just means like to cancel the contract, because maybe you don't want the contract to be fulfilled anymore because one party's broke it. And the last one is specific performance, and this is when you get the court, or the judge, to instruct the other party to go through with the contract as agreed. So that's it for today's tutorial. Hope you enjoyed it. It's just a quick little summary on stakeholders and relationships. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, you can leave me some feedback. And also remember to check out more videos on our website, examrevision.ie. Thanks guys.